figured it out. Ace Ventura today for the Degenerate Gambling Life Halloween party. This is what we got for you today. Rover, 64, hot.
All right, Jordan, thank you for that great intro. We got a great volume for you guys. Let's start right into it with the things that we got right. Chet Holmgren. Told you, pick him up if you're drafting. He had 7 blocks. Probably should have had 8 or 9 if they would have called him the right way. But he's definitely going to be a beast out there in fantasy basketball. Next, Jacob making the call for Dalton Kincaid. With Knox going down, Dalton definitely looks like he's that number 1 tight end. I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes in the top 8 from here on out. So definitely scoop him up if he's still available. Also, giving that shout out to Kyler Murray coming back early. So if you're able to pick him up and you need QB help out there on the waiver wire, please hurry up and get him. It looks like he's going to be back this week. If not, stash him for one more week on the waiver wire. So those are the things that we got right. Now let's get into a few things we got wrong. I'm going to start with myself. All right. Called out Jerry Jeudy. And what did you know? The man had the best game of the season. So it seems like any time that I call out a defense or a player, maybe do the opposite. That's when they're going to go out, especially if you're thinking about, playing daily or something like that. Don't know why it keeps happening. Kevin also got his call wrong, saying dropping Jahan Dotson. We both put a lot of time and effort. I mean, this guy hadn't done anything for 7 weeks, either of them. And we know the potential is there based on their draft pedigree and what they've done. But, we're trying to give you the best advice we can, because hanging on to what someone's done in the past can usually just end up hurting you. So when we do these drop videos, we really are trying to give you the best advice we can and not just trying to make a statement and get clicks. So please, if you dropped them because of something we said, we do apologize, but we truly are trying to give you the best advice we can. And hopefully you guys keep coming back. And we are the Degenerate Gambling Life.
You want that plastic working? Come Miller time.
I can foresee a lot of possible outcomes to this thing, and not a single one of them involves Miller time.
PMA. Positive mental attitude.
Welcome to Miller Time. I'm Kevin Miller, and on this week's episode, I will be discussing some advanced strategies and tips that I use in my 16 leagues to help you guys get the W in your leagues. And I'm going to categorize this into 3 different brackets. The first bracket is you're in very good position in your league. You're probably sitting at 6-2 or better, maybe even 7-1 or 8-0 if you got really lucky so far. What I'd be focusing on if I was in a good position like this is upcoming bye weeks for my quarterback, tight end, defense, and kicker. If these positions still have bye weeks, they could pile up, and you might have to drop 2 or 3 players on the same week. So I'd try to look ahead and plan for this. If you have a really good team, you might have a really good bench. You don't want to drop 2 or 3 really good bench players. So you need to find a way around this. Whether it's trading away a player on a break-even trade or taking even a small hit. I'd also start looking at the playoff weeks and my defense and special teams and the matchup. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it marginal? Is there a defense on the waiver wire I can pick up that has a good week 15 or 16 or 17 matchup? Start looking at that home stretch. Now, on the other side of the coin, if I was 2-6 or worse, so 2-6, 1-7, or 0-8, you're creeping on elimination mode. Every week for you is pretty much an elimination game at this point, and all that matters is winning this week. Focus on the waiver wire. If it's a fab budget bidding, spend 25 to 50% of your remaining budget on the top pickup this week. Jacob's going to go over those pickups with you guys. If you got not much fab left, then you might just have to go all in on a player and hope it works out. If it's a waiver priority league, use your early claim. If you're holding on to it, you probably already held on to it for too long and missed out on some of the big names. And by the time you get your guy that you were waiting for, you're already going to be eliminated. So it's time to use those waiver priorities, use that fab budget. Don't look to make trades if you're 2-6 or worse. You're going to get to, this is the time where those teams get taken advantage of. You're not going to get a good return on your investment, and you're probably going to stir up some drama in your league. Now, most of us are probably somewhere in the middle of really good and really bad right now. So if you're 5-3, 4-4, or 3-5, you need to focus on a little bit of both of those sides of the coin that I just talked about. I'd be looking at I wouldn't be focusing on playoffs just yet, but I'd be looking at the next few weeks, seeing if I have any bye weeks I need to address, try to pick up those positions 1 week in advance if I can. But I'd also remember that every week it's very important to focus on winning. I would still be aggressive on the waiver wire. I'd use that early priority claim. You don't need to panic, but you might be able to look at and you can see if there's anyone in trades, feel out a couple other teams, figure out what your team needs, and reach out to other teams for that position. That's how I'd play my hand, whether I was in really good shape, really bad shape, or somewhere in the middle. If you guys want to comment or have any other questions, drop a comment in the box. I'll make sure to get back to you guys. Another thing, my pro tip of the week, if you're newer to fantasy, I'm going to teach you guys something to look for right now. It's not rocket science, but when you're looking at guys that could break out down the stretch, most of the breakouts have already happened, but there's still going to be a handful of guys that are going to break out, whether it's from an injury that hasn't happened yet or a role increase. There will be league winners the next few weeks. One way to identify these players, especially at the wide receiver position, is by targets. Focus on targets, not on yards, not on catches, not on touchdowns. Look at a player's targets. When you see a consistent increase go from 3 or 4 targets up to 7 or 8 a couple weeks in a row, that's a pretty good indicator that this player is trending towards a breakout or towards every week usage in your lineup. So focus on targets. Pick up those guys that's targets have gone up since the start of the season. That's my pro tip of the week. And here's Jacob with the waiver wire.
10. 10 ought to do it, don't you think? You think we need one more? You think we need one more? All right, we'll get one more.
What's up, guys? I'm Jacob Listowski with the Degenerate Gambling Life, and on this week's episode, I'm going to be talking about the best waiver wire pickups for Week 9. At QB, Will Levis is going to be your best option. He's coming off a 4-touchdown game last week, and although he probably won't repeat that performance, he does look to have a good connection with DeAndre Hopkins, and he should be solid going forward. Derek Carr is another good option. He's topped over 300 passing yards in the last 3 games and is averaging 18 fantasy points over those 3 games. He's definitely a solid streaming option next week versus the Bears. Kyler Murray remains a decent option as well on the waiver wire, and there's a chance he could return this week, although it's more likely he'll be back in Week 10, but he should definitely be back in time to make some noise in the fantasy playoffs. At running back, Leonard Fournette will be the top option as he just signed with the Bills. I wouldn't expect too much right away, but he's shown that he's been very good in PPR formats in the past, and I think he could definitely be relevant in all formats and could emerge down the stretch this season. Amari Mercado remains a good option. He's still available in over 60% of leagues, and he looks like he's going to be relevant in PPR formats until James Conner returns for the Cardinals. I wouldn't suggest starting him against Cleveland next week, though. At wide receiver, Rashid Shaheed looks like a good option. He's clicking with Derek Carr and is a big play threat for the Saints offense. He doesn't get the most looks, but he's definitely a good boomer bust candidate that you can play in the flex spot if you really need to go for a win. Demario Douglas is another player that you should take a look at. With the injury to Kendrick Bourne, he looks like he could either be the wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 option in the Patriots offense. And although that's not a high-powered offense, he's still worth rostering. Tyler Boyd is also worth rostering in your leagues. I wouldn't suggest starting him at this point, but the Bengals passing offense looks like it's starting to click, and that could make him a good option to stash away going forward. At tight end, the top option is Trey McBride, who saw 14 targets and 10 catches in his first game as a starter. If you're weak at tight end, you definitely want to add him this week. Taysom Hill remains a strong option who's available in many leagues. He ran for 2 touchdowns last week, and it looks like he's going to continue to be a key contributor in the Saints offense going forward. And also keep David Njoku in mind at tight end as well. He's averaged 8.5 targets over the last 2 weeks and has 9 catches for 131 yards and a touchdown over those 2 games. He seems to be meshing well with PJ Walker and could be worth a pickup if you need a tight end.
It's that bittersweet time. Those players we thought we'd never let go of.
Come back! Come back! I'll never let go. I promise.
This week, it hits me especially hard. I'm having to say goodbye to Kirk Cousins. Captain Kirk, oh Captain, my Captain, I drafted you in those later rounds because I know what you can do, Kirk. But your Achilles decided to hurt you, so I gotta let you go. I do want to remind everyone that he's going down right now as a QB6, player 10 overall, and people just disrespect you, Captain. But I know the value you bring. You've helped me win so many championships. When others are drafting Deshaun Watson, I'm able to draft a David Montgomery, a Mike Evans, because I knew I had the captain. I'm sorry to let you go, but I'm dropping you, Kirk Cousins.
Miles Sanders. I can't believe it got to this point, man. You looked like you were going to be so good. You're going to Carolina and playing with a rookie QB. But it's Chuba Hubbard's time, and I gotta let you go.
Oh yeah, this mermaid costume gonna be a hit tonight at the... Oh, hey guys, how's it going? I forgot that we're supposed to be doing this drop video today, and I was kind of just all in my Halloween, getting my costume on, getting ready for the party tonight at the shower prison, and well, today I'm not gonna be dropping anybody. The only thing I'm going to be dropping is this right here. Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen. Cannonball!
All right, now let's quickly jump in and discuss some defenses that you can stream this week in fantasy football. We have the Saints versus the Bears. Definitely want to look at picking up the Saints. The Bears have turned into a pumpkin again, and it's time to jump on the teams that are playing them. Next, we got the Browns versus the Cardinals. If someone did drop the Browns again because they had a little bit tougher matchup last week, jump on them because they're playing the Cardinals. Even if Kyler Murray comes back, he might have some rust, so I definitely think you should be looking at the Browns. Next, we got the Commanders versus the Patriots. Pick up the Commanders. The Patriots really just haven't shown too much life, and their number one wide receiver is done for the season. So that's a defense you can definitely pick up for this week. And finally, your desperation pick. We got the Buccaneers versus the Texans. Pick up the Bucs as your desperation pick. I know the Texans sometimes hang a large number, but they're kind of struggling a little bit right now. So if you really need a defense and all the others are taken, that's a defense you can look at picking up. So hopefully those help you and I can come through. All the ones last week at least got you 4 or 5 points. So hopefully they're at least keeping you afloat. Next, let's pivot to that fantasy basketball. I want to start by saying, the season, it's early, so please don't drop those players that you drafted even in the middle rounds because it is very, very early in the fantasy basketball season. We're only a week into it. The player I want to spotlight is Alex Burks, Detroit Pistons. Okay, right now he's currently averaging 16.3 points. He's making 3.7 3-pointers. He'll help you there. He's getting 4 rebounds. He will get you some assists in the future. He also gives you a lot of player flexibility as he's eligible for point guard, the shooting guard, and small forward position. I know he's a little bit on the older side right now, but with the usage, he's getting around 30 minutes. Definitely play him while he's on that hot streak if you have room for him on your team. Next, some tips I want to give you if you're a little bit new to fantasy basketball or looking for different things. Players with position flexibility. If you get someone that they can only play center position, only can play the point guard position, it really hurts you whenever you have a bunch of players that are all stacked up playing the same days and same position. So please keep that in mind, looking for players that have that position flexibility. And next, something to look at is the amount of time that they have. So you go into the game logs and it'll show how many minutes they log, and that'll kind of tell you how the coach is feeling about them, especially on those bench and role players that you should be turning through on the end of your bench. Look at that. So whenever the coach might get a little sour on them, drops them down to that 14 minute range, you can drop them. But then when you're looking for players that are playing that 20 to 30 minute range as they get hot, that's who you want to scoop up. So those are some tips for you.
I didn't think I'd ever need to tell you this, but I would be a bad parent if I didn't. Soccer was invented by European ladies to keep them busy while their husbands did the cooking.
Why do you have to hate what you don't understand?
I don't hate you, Bobby.
I meant soccer.
Oh, yeah, I hate soccer, yes.
Oh, are we live? We're live? This is the Degenerate Gambling Life's Ad in Minutes, and as always, I'm Jordan Smoker. We had movement in La Liga after this weekend's El Clasico. Barcelona got on the board early in the 6th minute via Gundogan, who required a Real Madrid mistake and a bit of luck before he slotted the ball past Real Madrid keeper Kepa Arrizabalaga. Barcelona would hold that lead all the way into the 68th minute when English wonder kid Jude Bellingham absolutely ripped the cover off a ball with a right foot cannon. Could have put a hole in the net had Barcelona keeper Ter Stegen not gotten a hand to it in an attempted block. More bad news for the Catalonians in added time. This time a bit of luck falls Real Madrid's way as Bellingham ran unmarked into the Madrid box and found himself on the right side of a Modric miscue. With the ball bouncing right to his feet and only the keeper to beat, Bellingham tapped in the winner to help Madrid win 2-1. The victory bumped them up into first place over Girona in the standings. And if losing the Clasico in dramatic fashion wasn't bad enough for Barcelona, Atletico Madrid won comfortably on Sunday over Alaves to leapfrog Barcelona in the standings. So as things stand in La Liga, it's Real Madrid 1, Girona 2, Atletico Madrid 3, and Barcelona rounding out the top 4. On to some Premier League scores from the weekend. We saw Chelsea lose 2-0 at home to Brentford as their woes continue. West Ham stays stagnant in the standings as they lose 1-0 to Everton. Aston Villa trying to keep pace with the top 4. They had a 3-1 win over home at Luton Town, but they still sit 1 point out in 5th. Arsenal routed Sheffield 5-0 thanks to an Eddie Nketiah hat-trick. And Liverpool remained top 4 after a convincing 3-0 win over Nottingham Forest. It was Manchester City in the Manchester Derby. They absolutely humiliated in-town rivals Manchester United 3-0. And guess who had 2 goals? If you didn't guess Erling Haaland, you might want to get your brain checked because I've said it before. All this guy does is continue to score. He's on the score sheet week after week after week. And unfortunately, Tottenham continue to set the pace in the Premier League as they won Friday 2-1 over Crystal Palace to guarantee their spot at the top until match week 11 next weekend. Hope you guys enjoyed this volume's added minutes, and I hope you guys had a great Halloween. We'll see you next week.
Okay, let's quickly get into a poker hand review and talk a little bit of theory. It's at the South Point Casino again in Vegas from whenever I was there. And we're going to start with it being a 1-2 game. I'm roughly 350 at this point. So I'm in middle position and it's limp to me, and I look down at 7-5 of clubs and I open bet to $8 and I get a lot of callers. The low jack calls, the cutoff calls, the button calls, the small blind calls, the big blind calls, and the gun calls. I mainly know this is happening because I've been very splashy, and this is very much a ABC boring type of table. So the flop comes, it comes the 5 of spades, 4 of hearts, and 3 of spades. These players, again, they're pretty face up, very ABC. So when it checks to me, and it is a favorable flop, even though it's not really an open range, but again, 1, 2, those stakes, you kind of can throw out some of that stuff and just start playing the way your flop is. So I want to thin the field here. So I make it $23, and the button calls and the under a gun +1 calls, which gets my attention because this is very much a tight old man. He's got dust on his chips. I saw him go to the river 2 times before that, and he won both times. So him going to the turn with me is definitely something that caught my attention. So the turn is the 7 diamonds. It gives me 2 pair, but I also know it's not the best turn card. And now the under gun, he leads out for $35, and I instantly debate folding. I know he's got the 6. I know he has the 6. And it's one of those where I start thinking, well, it's 35 to win a decent sized pot. I know if I can, get lucky, I can scoop him. And against players like that, you kind of gotta get lucky in cooler situations. In the long run, it's probably losing play making it, but I do make the call, and the button folds, and we go to the river, and I get super lucky. It is the 7 of hearts. The earned gun now leads out for 100, again confirming the 6. Just that's what he has. He's not thinking anything else. And I debate the size, but with my stack behind, about 5-10 seconds afterwards, I just rip in, go all in, and he thinks for less than 5 seconds, and he calls, and I tell him right away, I say, I know you got 6, but you're no good, I have the boat. And I show him the bad news, and he flips over the 6 of hearts and 5 of hearts, and he quickly gets up. In these scenarios, what do you guys think? Should I fold it? Do you guys loosen up your play trying to, catch them, because it is so hard to get money from that sort of player type? I was ahead pre-flop, flop, river, so he is the one that technically caught up. But what do you guys think? How would you play that? So again, always looking for comments and things. So we look forward to all of you guys for volume 16. If you haven't yet, please like, comment, subscribe, share. Let us know what you'd like to see, and we'll see all of you guys next week.